Hello, everyone, and welcome to session 2 of Strengthening Parenting. I'm so glad that you're here, and I look forward to hearing about any parenting adventures you'd like to share with me in this last week. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started. First of all, thank you again to Pam Clayton and to the Walla Walla Public School Family and Community Engagement for spearheading family health in our city. I just feel so thankful for the way that our district invests in families. So again, just a reminder to make sure your audio stays muted. Please, at any time, feel free to put questions in the chat box. And we are recording this. Unless there are any objections, please let me know. And otherwise, grab something to take notes with, and let's get started. So for those of you who didn't get to meet me last week, my name is Heather Robinson, and I'm a Love and Logic facilitator. This is my family, Andrew. We will have been married for 18 years, starting or as of this June. 17 years ago, we moved to Walla Walla, so we've been in the Valley for quite a while. And our children are Abigail, she is 10 years old in 4th grade, and Luke, he's 7 years old and in 1st grade, and they're both at Prospect Point. So tonight we're going to be talking about power struggles, that no one wins a power struggle. I also call this how to stay in control of myself while everything and everyone seems out of control around me. I tell you, COVID and craziness. And this really has been such a crazy time, hasn't it, with COVID? Even the best parts of us have struggled now and again through COVID. Some of those struggles come from simply trying to parent our kids well while our lives were also turned upside down. And so this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about how to stay in control of ourselves when everything around us feels out of control. And here's the deal. I hate to break this news to you, even though some of you may already know this, but we think we have much more control than we do. I never thought of myself as a controlling person until I became a parent. Why can't our kids just do what we want them to do? You might have been tricked. I might have been tricked into thinking that when our kids are young, we have more control. But here's the thing. Anyone who's listening who has teenagers might have a different story to tell us. You see, it's easy when our kids are young to think that we can tell them what to do and we can get them to do it no matter what. We're in control, we're the parents. But if the foundation that we've created is that I'm in control and I'm in charge as your parent, then this creates a foundation in which our teenagers later can and likely will turn around and say to us, no, you're not. I'm in control and I'm in charge. We all have a natural desire to be in control of our life. Imagine going to the grocery store to purchase your family's favorite fruits and vegetables. You walk to the produce aisle, you reach to pick up a delicious, ripe watermelon. And then a grocery attendant steps in and says, no, you can only have cantaloupes today. You say, but I see the watermelons. They're right there. I would like one of those. I know those are there, the attendant says, but no, you can only have cantaloupes today. This doesn't seem quite fair, does it? The watermelons are right there. And our kids feel like that sometimes. It's something that they want. It's right there. Why can't I have it? They want to be able to have that. And we want to be able to pick out the fruit that we want. We want to be in control of that decision. And of course, many other more important decisions. And our kids are no different. What about bigger decisions? What about if your life is in danger? What if someone that you care about, what if their life is in danger? We would want and need to get in control of whatever it is that's dangerous to us. Being in control is not necessarily a bad thing. We've come wired for it. COVID-19 has certainly shown us that we do have a natural desire to be in control, but that unfortunately, we don't have as much control as we thought we did. No matter where you're at in your parenting journey with toddlers or teenagers, you've probably experienced your kids exercising their need to be in control. Rather than try to wrench control out of their hands and engage in a power struggle, I want to offer you another idea to experiment with. Find ways to control the one thing you can yourself. And isn't it a great thing for our kids to see the most important people in their lives, their parents, working to stay in control of themselves? I want to share with you 3 ideas on this topic. But before that, I want to get into a little bit of psychology. As I mentioned, first of all, we are hardwired to be in control. The need to be in control is healthy. Consider healthy habits of control that we can develop for eating, exercising, studying, and relationships. How about consider when any of these are not healthy? There is a power dynamic in the area of control. We use power to control something or someone. The healthy power dynamic is to use control where all of us flourish. The unhealthy use of power is to control something or someone for ourselves or for our own gain or for our own desired outcome. Consider the way you were parented. How much control sharing was there? Consider politicians or wealthy CEOs. How are they using their power? How about professors or even faith leaders? Have they used their control or power in healthy ways? For all the folks I've mentioned, sometimes yes, but not always. Sometimes no. We all know people who have not used their power in a healthy way, and therefore they have not practiced healthy control. As parents, we must consider the power dynamic that is at play between us and our kids. We are actually the most powerful people in our kids' lives up until they're 18, and to some degree, even when they're older. How do we use our power? How do we model a healthy use of power? Many times, when we misuse our power and thus misusing being in control, sometimes we misuse it because we're afraid, and that's only natural. We don't want our kids to make the wrong decision. We don't want our kids to experience emotional pain. We don't want our kids to get marked down for a late assignment they forgot to do. In other words, when I'm afraid, I control. We exert our control in a healthy or unhealthy way when we feel afraid. The key is to figure out why we want to control something or someone and to ultimately be in control of ourselves. So, with that in mind, I want to share some ideas with you. These ideas are based on Love and Logic's 2 concepts about control. When we try to hoard control, we lose it. When we share control, we gain it. When we try to hoard control, we lose it. When we share control, we gain it. It makes me think of Darth Vader. Control, I must have control. But really, the more control that he hoarded, the more he lost, right? And it seems like an oxymoron, but it really is true. When we share control, we gain it. Wise parents gain the control they need by giving away the control they don't need. Wise parents gain the control they need by giving away the control they don't need. In other words, wise parents gain the control they need, the control that really does matter, by giving away the control they don't need. They don't have to decide maybe the vegetables they make for dinner to that night. There's other things that we don't have to be in control of. And so we share that control. Let's jump into our skills. First of all is a personal idea. This is a skill just for you. Ask yourself a question. When I feel out of control, so for example, when I'm yelling or when I want to yell, or when I'm crying, I just want to fall on the floor and cry. When I want to be overly sarcastic. So when I feel out of control, ask yourself the question, what am I afraid of? Or what do I need? What am I afraid of, or what do I need? Remember, when I'm afraid, I control, which means I likely have an unmet need. If we ask ourselves these questions, what am I afraid of, or what do I need? Then we identify that need and are more likely to respond in a healthy way to the situation at hand with our kids. Here's some examples. I'm afraid we're going to be late. So if I'm afraid we're going to be late, if I haven't identified that yet, then I might be doing saying things like, get in the car. It's time to go. Why are you dragging your feet? Right? So when I'm afraid, I'm controlling the situation. Hurry up, get in the car. But if I can just, okay, oh, I'm afraid we're going to be late. That's why I'm doing this. What about, I'm tired of this toddler stage, or I'm tired of the tween stage, and I'm tired of the teen stage. I'm just tired of this particular stage. Or maybe it's, I'm stressed at work. Maybe I'm feeling afraid that there's a certain friend that's a bad influence on my son. Or maybe I'm afraid my daughter doesn't like herself. Maybe I'm afraid my teenagers are going to make the bad decisions that I made when I was their age. So when you can discover what it is, you can decide where to go from there. And you might not be able to address that personal thing in that moment, that personal need that you have, or what you're feeling afraid of, but you can take a deep breath because you've identified it. You can take a deep breath and realize what's behind your fear or your need. Say to yourself, I'm going to come back to that later when I have a moment. But now I know what it is. And now I can take a deep breath and respond in a healthy way to my child. Our next skill, we talked a lot about last week, but we're adding to it now. And it's to use enforceable statements by sharing control. So this means to say what you are willing to do or allow, not to tell your child or your teen what to do. So remember what we talked about last week. Never tell a stubborn child what to do. Instead, tell them what you are willing to do or allow. So this can sound like, I give dessert to kids who finish their dinner. I play games with kids who don't cheat. I allow teenagers to use my car when they return it with gas in the tank. Now, a different statement might be, eat your dinner, or there's no ice cream. What? You're always cheating. This game is over. I'm not playing with you. You forgot to fill up the gas tank again. You know what? You're not using my car for the rest of the week. Those are different. We're now in a power struggle. We're in defense mode. I'm controlling the situation. I feel afraid. I feel frustrated. I don't feel in control. Instead, with this skill, we're using enforceable statements. We're giving our kids that chance to think about what it is that we've shared. Enforceable statements allow us to control ourselves and not someone else. They also allow us to say what we mean and to mean what we say. And best of all, sharing control allows our kids to feel a part of the relationship rather than just being told all day what to do. And it's how fun for our kids to get to share in the decision making. And we're going to talk more later about how powerful it is for our kids to get to practice making decisions. So our third skill tonight is sharing control by providing choices. So some guidance on providing choices. First of all, provide, and let me just back up for a second here. Sharing control by providing choices. This goes back to all of us being born with a need to be in control. So when we're sharing choices, what are we doing? We're sharing control. We're providing choices. We're sharing control. We're giving away the control that we don't need, and our kids get that opportunity to be in control. So first of all, provide choices within limits. So, when my 10-year-old says, oh, I can't wait till I can drive, am I going to say, oh yeah, that'll be really neat. It's going to be fun to teach you how to drive when you're 15. Or, hey, you want to practice right now? I can teach you how to drive right now. Well, that's not a good limit. That 10-year-old should not be behind the wheel, even if I'm sitting next to her, right? Provide choices within limits. And we want those limits to expand and change and grow as our kids grow. But that we want to start small and build into larger. Second, only give choices that fit your value system. You don't have to give a choice that isn't a value system to you. Give choices that fit your value system. Give 99% of your choices when things are going well. Remember last week we talked about, I don't make good decisions when I'm not feeling well. If I'm feeling grumpy or angry, or I've just had a really stressful day, um, you know, I don't make good decisions then. I don't know, can't really think straight. Our kids are no different. They are human just like us, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like they're human, but they are. And so we want to give 99% of our choices when things are going well. Give choices before your child becomes resistant. It can be easy. That's where that power struggle starts, right? But when you're in a power struggle, that's not the time to give choices. That's a time to take a deep breath. And if you need to, you can say, you know what, you know what, we need to take a step back. Mommy forgot to give you a choice. Let's just take a deep breath. Let's step back. Okay. Would you like to be done now or in 5 minutes? 5 minutes? Okay, great. I'll set the timer. And that's okay. You take a step back, and again, we're all practicing, so that's okay. But give choices before your child becomes resistant. What it could look like is turn it off now. I told you to turn it off. No, I don't want to. Well, I said you should do it. I said I don't want to. Okay, do you want to do it now or in 5 minutes? Oh, okay. That's giving choices. We're already all resistant. We're in a power struggle. That's what we want to avoid. So for each choice, give 2 options, each of which you like. Don't want to give an option that you're not happy with. You're okay with either option that you give them. Use care not to disguise threats as choices. Use care not to disguise threats as choices. It's not a choice if one of them is a threat. That's not a choice. So make sure you're giving actual choices. Don't be afraid to say, I usually give choices, but not this time. And trust me, when you've been giving choices to your children or your youth, all throughout the day or all throughout the week, there's going to be times that it's just not the time to give them a choice. Maybe you've got to rush out the door and all of a sudden you didn't realize, oh my gosh, we've got to be there in 5 minutes. We got to get going. And you don't have time to say, would you like to leave now or in 5 minutes? It's just like, grab your coat, let's go. And if they're resistant, you can just say, I usually give choices, but not this time. We need to go. And that's okay. If your child doesn't choose very quickly, choose for him or her. You don't have to wait 5 minutes. You don't even have to wait 20 seconds for your child to make a choice. My son can be very wishy-washy. He can just be like, do I want white milk or chocolate milk? White milk or chocolate milk? White milk or eeny, meeny, miny, moe, catch a tiger by. And it's just like, okay, you've chosen white milk. Sometimes it's just, here you go. And that's okay. They will take as long as you give them, and they will learn to make choices quickly. Sometimes it's like, oh, you didn't give me long enough. Well, maybe you'll make a quicker choice next time, but tonight you get to have white milk. And then lastly, as your kids grow into new stages, give choices that carry more weight. It would be silly for me when I was giving my daughter choices when she was young. Would you like to wear socks or no socks? Would you like to wear flip-flops or tennis shoes? Right? And we're practicing these choices. We're sharing control and we're providing choices. But now as a 10-year-old, if I say to her, would you like to wear socks or no socks? She's going to say, Mom, I'm already dressed for the day. Like that doesn't make sense anymore. But now that she's older, we give her bigger choices to make. We're sharing even more control. She's been practicing sharing. We've been practicing choices and making decisions since she was 1.5. Now she's older and we're giving her. So as as stages change, give choices that are weightier. And I have a funny story to tell you about with my son, Luke, that just happened this last Sunday morning. We were headed in to a building on Sunday morning, and my son was wearing a short sleeve shirt and he had his arms inside the shirt. And as we're headed into the building, I said, hey, Luke, take your arms out of the shirt, put your arms out. He just grunted at me. And I said, come on, buddy, put your arms out of your shirt. And honestly, I wasn't thinking it was gonna be a power struggle. I just thought, we're headed into this building, like, it's, yeah, like, it's just put your arms out of your shirt. So I didn't think a choice was necessary in that moment. But he did not want to put his arms out of his shirt. And so he just kind of sort of groaned at me. And so he said, "I'm cold." And I said, "Oh, well, you probably should have grabbed your coat." And he said, "Well, you didn't grab my coat for me." And I was like, "Whoa." And I said, or I didn't say whoa at that time. I said, "Oh," I said, "Well, 7-year-old kids who are 7 are old enough to grab their own coats, and you're 7." And he said, "You're 7." And I just went, "Whoa." That's all I said, because we were headed in to this event and there wasn't time to discuss this matter. I was also a little too upset to discuss it, and I don't talk nice when I'm upset. So I was like, whoa. And I just carried on. And, honestly, Luke's, of course, like any 1-year old, 2-year old, 3-year old, 4-year old, 5-year old, 6-year old throughout his life so far, he's challenged many things. But him talking to me that way and being sarcastic, and I mean, he had his head going. He was like, "You should have got my coat for me." Well, you're 7. He doesn't actually talk to me that way. And so I talked to my husband about it that afternoon, and we realized, you know what? He's in a new stage of development and he needs bigger choices. We felt like he's feeling like he needs more control. And so we thought about that this week is, what are some bigger choices that we can give him, so he can feel bigger, so he can enter into that next stage and we don't have this power struggle happening. So a few more slides before we get to questions. So providing choices, I wanted to give you a few examples of what providing choices can sound like, because it takes practice to come into this new skill of providing choices. So instead of saying, "Go take a shower," are you going to take a shower or a bath? Instead of, "Put your coat on," will you be wearing your coat or carrying it? Instead of, "These are the clothes I'm buying," "No, I am not buying those expensive clothes. So you know what? That's how it is." Instead, we can say, "I can pay for these clothes or you can pay for the designer ones. Which would you like to do?" Instead of, "I want you home at 10 o'clock tonight." Will you be home by 10 p.m. or 11 p.m.? Or whatever your value system is. Maybe it's 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. Depending on if it's your 17-year-old, maybe it's 11 p.m. or midnight. But instead of "be home by 10, it's "will you be home by 10 p.m. or 11 p.m.? Instead of "here's milk, would you like milk or juice?" So these are examples of providing choices. And our last slide for the evening is what providing choices can provide. That providing choices within limits allows these 5 things. Number 1, I have the opportunity to stay in control of me. Number 2, we both, us and our kids, me and my son, me and my daughter, my husband and our kids, we all have the opportunity to avoid a power struggle, because just like this class is called, "No one wins a power struggle." It really is true. No one wins a power struggle. All we do is argue. And so by providing choices within limits, we avoid a power struggle altogether. Third, our kids learn how choices affect the quality of their life. Even with Luke not wearing his coat, he was cold. That affected the quality of his life. Our kids learn that, which leads to the fourth one. Our kids develop an internal control system. So instead of, "Well, my mom and dad said this is what I should do," that's an external control system. What about when they're in 6th grade and someone's offering them drugs? We're not going to be there as an outside guide. We're not always there with our kids to say, "Oh, doing drugs is a bad decision." You know what? By the time they're 11 or 12, they've had an opportunity to make lots of decisions. And those decisions either went well for them or didn't go well for them. And when it didn't go well for them, we were there with empathy to say, "Oh, I know how that feels. I know how that feels, bud." And we're right there with them. "Oh, I wonder what you're going to do differently next time. What do you think?" And we're helping guide. We're that consultant on the side. We're helping guide with empathy, to create that internal control system. So as they get older, and you know what, if you're parenting a teenager and you're new to love and logic, It's not too late. You absolutely can pick up right now where you're at and start providing choices. So please don't feel like, oh, I haven't been doing this and things are really hard right now. That's okay. Just baby steps, we can start here. And if you would like to, you know, talk about a few more things around parenting teens, or hey, I'm just getting started with Love and Logic and I have teenagers and it's really hard, I'd be happy to dialogue with you more about that. But with this number 4, creating an internal control system is really powerful because they can say to themselves, if I say yes to this or no to this or whatever decision is in front of me, I can look inside myself and I have the power to make this decision and to know if it's to the best of my ability, is it a good decision or a bad decision? The cause and effect is strong. And then finally, number 5, we model healthy living and what healthy relationships look like. How powerful is it for our kids? Um, we when they're in our household, we want to try to create an environment in our household that looks like what they might face in the world, so that while they're under our roof, we're able to be there to guide. And for them to see that my mom, my dad, my stepmom, my stepdad, my foster mom or dad, my caregiver, my aunt, wherever you find yourself in this whole thing of parenting, that they like stayed in control of themselves, and they let me make a lot of decisions growing up, actually. And we were like in a relationship, we were partners in a relationship. They didn't just bark orders at me for 18 years, but we were, how beautiful to be able to model that to our children and to our youth. So thank you so much for listening to this and being a part of this. And now I just want to be available to you for any questions. And even if don't have questions right now, but you have questions later, you are more than welcome to email me those questions. So here, I've got some giveaways, which I'll talk more about offline after the recording. And lastly, I just want to remind you about next Tuesday. It's our final session, and it's on how to build a parent-child relationship that lasts a lifetime. And I am so grateful that I have such an incredible relationship with my parents, that they worked so hard. They invested so much in me growing up. And now to this day, we have the most amazing relationship. And that's my goal with my kids. My goal is to have a connected relationship with my kids. Everything I do is with that in mind, so that when they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, I can always be a precious part of their life, and they will always be a precious part of mine. So I'm really excited next week to talk about how to have a connected relationship with your child. So same day, Tuesday, same time, 7 to 8 p.m., and the same Zoom link. If you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to email me at strongliving34@gmail.com. I'll see you next week. Bye.